Today, we're going to unpack one of the most powerful visions in all of Scripture, the very first verse of Revelation 20. Now, it's almost always seen as a prophecy about the distant future. But what if the key to understanding it isn't about what's coming, but about a victory that's already been won? Let's dive in.
I mean, the imagery here is just unforgettable, isn't it? You have this celestial being coming down with the key to a mysterious abyss and this massive chain. It feels absolutely epic, cosmic, and it's just loaded with symbolic weight.
And for centuries, people have read this and pointed to a dramatic event that's still to come, a future moment when Satan will finally be bound and locked away. It's really a cornerstone for a lot of end times beliefs.
But this brings up a huge question. What if this epic vision isn't actually a prophecy of a future event, but a symbolic description of something that has already happened, a victory that's already been secured?
To figure that out, we've got to start with the first clue right there in the text. Who exactly is this angel? Well, the answer might be hiding in plain sight, right in the original language.
See, in the original Greek, the word for angel is angelos, and it literally just means messenger. So this is our first major clue. We're not necessarily looking for just any angel, but for a very specific divine messenger.
And the text gives us our biggest clue of all. This messenger came down from heaven. Now, when you look elsewhere in Scripture, who is the one figure who repeatedly says he came down from heaven? It's Jesus. He is the ultimate messenger who descended with a divine purpose. Okay, so if the messenger is Jesus, what about the tools he's carrying? That key and that chain. They're not just props, they're incredibly powerful symbols of his authority, and each one tells a really important part of the story. And boom, right there in the same book of Revelation, the identity of the key holder becomes crystal clear. Jesus himself declares, "I have the keys of hell and of death." So this isn't some other angel borrowing the keys. This is the one who earned them. And this is the crucial point. The key represents absolute authority. It's the power to lock and unlock the realm of the dead, an authority that Jesus secured when he conquered the grave. It's not a physical object, but a symbol of his ultimate final victory. And this is just a brilliant illustration of what the chain is for. Jesus himself asked the question back in Matthew, how can you plunder a strong man's house unless you first bind him? Well, Revelation 20 shows us the answer. That great chain in the messenger's hand is the very thing used to bind that strong man, Satan. All right, so we've identified the messenger as Jesus and his tools as symbols of his authority. So now for the final piece of the puzzle. When did all this actually happen? Well, the sources point to one singular decisive moment in history. This verse from Colossians is the anchor for this whole idea. It states, without any ambiguity, that the triumph over all these evil powers was not some future event, but something that was accomplished openly at the cross. The victory was declared right there, in what looked like a moment of weakness, but was, in fact, the moment of ultimate power. And this timeline just lays out the whole sequence perfectly. According to this interpretation, Christ's journey through death and resurrection is the fulfillment of this vision. He descended, he proclaimed victory, he took the keys, seizing authority from death itself, and then he ascended in ultimate triumph. So let's just pull all of this together. The angel is Jesus, the divine messenger. The key is his authority over death. The chain is his power to restrain evil, and the pit is that realm of chaos he conquered. Every single symbol in this vision points right back to the victory of the cross. Okay, so you might be thinking, great, this all happened 2,000 years ago, so what? What does it mean for us? Well, this is where the interpretation becomes incredibly relevant for today. What was the immediate, world-changing impact of this victory? Now, it's super important to understand what this binding actually means. It doesn't mean Satan was completely wiped out or that evil just vanished. It refers to a very specific restraint, his power to blind and deceive the nations on a mass scale, to keep them from hearing the gospel. That is what was broken. And this is the amazing result. See, before the cross, God's revelation was largely focused on the nation of Israel. But with the strong man bound, that primary spiritual obstacle was removed. The Great Commission wasn't just a command anymore. It was now a real possibility. The house could be plundered, and the gospel could finally go out into all the world. So let's just recap this whole argument one last time. We started with a vision that we're reading as symbolic. Then we identified those symbols, the angel, key, and chain as representing Jesus and the authority he won at the cross. And finally, we saw the incredible result, the binding of Satan's power of deception, which unleashed the gospel to spread all across the globe. So, we'll end with this thought. If the decisive, game-changing victory isn't something we're still waiting for, but something we are living in the reality of right now, how does that change our perspective? Does seeing the cross as the moment the chain was locked shift our understanding of history, our mission, and the power that's at work in the world today? Now, that is something to think about.